What up, Titans Tube? Welcome to our Week 2 recap podcast, where we break down and react to the Titans game that just occurred, and this one we won. Podcast will be available for download here, or you can just watch the full video right here. Anyways, Justin, what are your opening thoughts on Titans' victory over the Lions, 16-15?
First opening thoughts, it just feels good to get a victory no matter how hard they come. I mean, this franchise is dying and desperate for wins no matter how they can get them. But obviously it was pretty controversial both ways throughout the whole entire game. The refs put up 29 points today through 29 flags, 17 against the Lions, 12 against the Titans. It was an unbelievable flag fest. This was the most whistle-happy game I can remember in a long time. So yeah, the Lions have right to be upset. The Titans have a right to be upset about a lot of these penalty calls. I mean, a lot of them were ticky-tack. There was a lot of legit penalties, though. I mean, the refs they were just calling everything, in my opinion.
They really were. I think we were 7 flags away from setting the NFL record.
Good grief.
If I'm correct on that, maybe 1 or 2 off, but I believe it was 7 flags. And yeah, it was against both teams. Both teams were playing really sloppy. Most calls were justified, but there were some big ones, some really big questionable calls.
Oh yeah.
That could have gone either way that we might discuss later.
Yeah, and it's just this game is just going to be a little more difficult to evaluate with all the penalty flags, because they definitely stopped a lot of momentum for both teams that was happening. I mean, remember the first and goal the Lions had at the 1-yard line? I think it was 3 straight holding calls that they had against them to push them all the way back to the
They went
30.
First and goal at the 1 to first and goal at the 31, I believe.
Yeah, something like that.
Just ridiculous.
Absurd. But we're going to try to, definitely evaluate the performance regardless of the penalties best we can.
Okay,
so,
yeah. We'll get back to the officiating. Let's just go ahead and start where we always start, with the offense. Starting with Marcus Mariota's play. He looked first 3 quarters, we looked abysmal, in my opinion. Marcus looked uncomfortable. He looked like a deer in the headlights, completely just kind of lost out there, which was kind of a 180 from the first half against Minnesota, where he felt in control of the offense. I do think we took it down a notch with the exotic smash mouth and stuff. It was more kind of just simple power run stuff. But overall, just Marcus, he looked lost out there, and stringing back to the Minnesota game, before the 4th quarter, we went 5 quarters without scoring a touchdown. So what do you think about Marcus's play today?
I thought, like you were saying, he started out pretty slow, but I think a lot of that has to do with the offensive line play. They were atrocious in the first half. Like on 3rd downs, whenever we were down in field goal range, I think there were 2 times when Marcus got sacked for a big loss that kind of pushed us out of field goal range. So that the pass protection struggled, and Marcus definitely fell victim to some poor pass protection play. And even on their safety, I think we were lined up at the 5-yard line. We ran a running play, and they still tackled us.
It was like a stretch run, but
they still tackled us for a 5-yard loss in the end zone.
Honestly, back to O-line. Chance Formack was getting beat all day.
Chance had a rough afternoon.
John Robinson's really got to be focusing on him. I mean, this is his contract year, and it's not looking so hot for him so far. Also, Jack Conklin missed a few blocks early on the safety. Just wrong technique. Pushed the guy straight into Murray. But yeah, like you said, maybe it was we're kind of running a stretch run play and backed up in their own end zone. What? Yeah. Questionable play call right there.
They just knifed right through us.
Offensive line play, especially pass blocking, was terrible all day. I will attribute some of those. I feel like Marcus held onto the ball a little bit too long, but there's many aspects of this pass blocking, of Marcus holding onto the ball, but also maybe our receivers just couldn't get space, weren't getting open.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Also, as far as Marcus goes, and when pressure starts getting into his face, I feel like he's like a fraction of a second too late and trying to scramble away and trying to scramble outside of the pocket, because there's a few times where he saw the pressure, but he was just a bit late getting running away from the pressure, and they were right on him and ended up tackling him for a sack. So I think the pocket presence can still be worked on for Mariota, because he definitely has the speed and ability to scramble out whenever he can.
Yeah, I agree with you. He always seems like a step late on those plays, and I think that's just like a kind of like a young player maturity level. Because I remember I made a note in the first half. Marcus Mariota had taken a few sacks on third down that had pushed us out of field goal range. And then the next drive, when Detroit had it, it was a 3rd and short. We blitzed Stafford, or 2nd and short. He immediately got rid of it, just threw it away before the blitz got there. Marcus holds onto the ball like a split second too late. He's a step behind, and I just felt like I made a note. I was like, that's just a maturity thing, honestly, like growing, knowing the league, playing in games. Like Marcus has to learn to make those decisions faster. When the play's happening, which I think he will get to.
Yeah, definitely. I think also with Marcus, it was a lot better game from him as far as turnovers go. He did have an interception, which was a bad throw and a bad decision. I thought he kind of threw it into double coverage with the safety up there. But the turnover didn't lead to direct touchdowns like they did last week. So it didn't hurt us as much this time, but turnovers still kind of an issue with him. But overall, I mean, he had a fantastic fourth quarter, which made up for everything.
It really does. I mean, in the NFL, with your quarterback play, it's always like, what have you done for me lately? I mean, it's kind of like how you're rated how good you are based on the last play you've made, which Marcus finished the game fantastically. Clutch drives in the fourth quarter, leading us back from 15 to 3. 4th and 5, game-winning touchdown to Andre Johnson. Also, the 30-yard touchdown pass to Delaney Walker was spot on.
That was the first play of the fourth quarter. I think Marcus just decided to dial it in, like, fourth quarter time.
So it is hard to kind of rake Marcus Mariota through the coals, but through that first half, through the first 3 quarters, I honestly thought he looked bad and just kind of lost. And his stats, he finished okay. He was 25 of 33, 238 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, but over 102 quarterback rating. So pretty good stats. But like you said, it all finishes up in the fourth quarter, leading the game. Was this his first comeback win?
I don't think so.
We'll need to stat check that. But
I mean, he only won 3 games last year. It definitely wasn't against the Bucs. I think we came back against New Orleans in the fourth quarter.
I think we did
put it
too.
to overtime.
But this is definitely going to go down as one of Marcus's better comeback leads, comeback wins for sure. And another big thing that kind of has been on Marcus all last season and now still into this season is, can he throw the ball? Can he stretch the field? Which is, if it looks like he can't, or it looks like we're not getting any long plays down the field through the pass game, which defenses are just going to continue to shorten the field against us, which is going to make it harder and harder on our offense.
And it looks like Delaney Walker is actually our best deep threat at receiver. He's better than any receivers that we have going deep, and he definitely made it happen on that 30-yard touchdown reception. That was a perfect throw by Mariota, so he put the ball in the right spot on that play in particular.
He did. Okay, let's go on to run game. How do you think our run game looked? DeMarco Murray finished with 12 carries for 89 yards, 7.4 average. Most of that came on one play, 67-yard run. And Henry had 9 carries for 40 yards, 4.4 average.
I thought it was a good balance. What do the stats say there between how many times they both carried?
21 carries for about 130 yards.
All right, so that's a good almost an even split. 12 for Murray, 9 for Henry. I still think that's a little bit low for him. But again, this game was just really odd how it kind of played out with all the penalty flags.
It really was.
But I thought they played well. I thought we were getting positive yardage. Obviously, like you said, the big run by Murray really helped to pad those stats. It got us out of a tough situation being deep in our own territory.
But ironically, on that possession, we went 67 yards backed up and got no points off that.
I think, because Marcus ended up getting sacked and got out of field goal range, so that was disappointing. But I mean, that was great that we were able to break that running play. At least to flip the field.
That really did help his stats. Another big thing on offense, though, we were getting dominated in starting field position.
Oh, man.
I think our best starting field position was a 25-yard line, which we did twice. Other than that, we were backed up within the 15 multiple times.
We kept holding and blocking in the back. We kept getting penalties every return.
It came down to a lot of the unclean play, making mistakes, penalties that backed us up, even the Lions. But, it's tough to win games when you're having to drive 80, 90 plus yards every single drive just to get points.
Yeah, thank goodness. I think that final touchdown drive was, how long was that? Was that 80, 75 yards? We might have to stat check.
It might have been longer. We'll have to stat check that. Sorry, we don't have those kind of stats available to us now.
The game just ended. So.
Yeah, and we're all just hyped up because the Titans won.
Like, let's go.
Overall, we went 5 quarters without a touchdown in period dating back to the Minnesota game, but Fourth quarter, man, we looked like a different team.
We did.
We didn't panic. I will applaud us for this. We didn't panic. Marcus seemed to get it together when the pressure was on him.
Yep.
Led us on 2 great scoring drives to take the lead, and then our defense stepped up in the end.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
offense
Locked it
is
down.
looking good. Anything about the receiving game? Tajay Sharp was kind of quiet today,
Yeah.
but we got Delaney Walker the ball.
Yeah, that kind of flipped. Delaney seemed to be our go-to guy for this game as opposed to Tajay Sharp. But Tajay made some good catches. Yeah, he got us a few first downs. I feel like Rashard Matthews made his presence a little bit more felt. What was he, like 4 catches for 40-something yards?
Yeah, Rashard had 4 catches for 40 yards. Delaney Walker was our leading receiver, 6 receptions for 83 yards and the touchdown. And then actually DeMarco Murray was second with 7 receptions for 56 yards, which I still love seeing him in the pass game.
He's a good pass catcher out of the backfield. I like getting him involved. It's another guy to account for in the passing game.
I will say I really like so far through the first 2 games how we're utilizing DeMarco Murray. I think we're using him to his strength. I think our run game will continue to improve, so where his running stats are a little bit better. He doesn't have to break a 70-yard run to pad his stats, but I just like how we're utilizing him right now.
For sure. If that line play keeps it up, then he can dominate.
And definitely,
he's the line. It all starts with the line.
The turnaround from week 1 was we fed Delaney to Walker the ball, and he produced. Man, that dude can produce, and
Exactly.
I like to see it. And also, Andre Johnson stepped up big. Man, clutch catch. He dropped one. Week 1 in the end zone, not today.
It's all good.
Game-winning catch, Andre Johnson, 4th down and 5.
He made up
to beat
for it.
Detroit.
Man, that's almost worth the signing right there to make those clutch plays. He's the veteran, the wily veteran receiver.
The wily.
He's so wily. The big body, Mariota threading it into him. I like how Marcus trusted our most veteran receiver to make a play, and that's exactly what happened.
He did. Anyways, any last thoughts on the offense before we move on?
Offense, I mean, if I can, just as a team stat-wise, I mean, we were like even across the board with Detroit. We both had 22 first downs. They outgained us in yards by 12, 375 to 363. Rushing yards, we had 2 more rushing yards than them. And then the turnovers were even, 1 for us and 1 for them. So like a completely even game as far as offensive production. Both interceptions. Man, Parrish Cox made up for his poor play. I guess we can talk about the defense now.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think Parrish Cox had a good game, but he redeemed himself with the game-saving pick. Man, big defensive stand. I was still very uncomfortable that the Lions were going to get the ball with over a minute to go and 3 timeouts with Matthew Stafford leading the charge.
I was too. I mean, we talked about it in our breakdown. Matthew Stafford is their go-to. I mean, he's their bread and butter. He's the wheels to that team. How he goes is how the team goes.
Yeah.
But I mean, there was no flow to this game based on the penalties. But
no flow at all.
I don't even know where to start with the defense, honestly, because penalties
so
affected.
hard, yeah.
I think penalties especially hit Detroit hard. They had 2 TDs taken away.
That was a bad call on the officials on Eric Ebron. I
Yes.
think we touched him and they called a holding on.
They called offensive pass
pass
interference on Eric Ebron. Yeah.
That didn't make much sense.
Yeah. So I think the officials ended up affecting Detroit a little more with those because they had 1st and goal, backed them way up, ended up just getting field goal. But overall, I mean, through 2 games, our defense has given up 1 touchdown.
1 touchdown.
1 touchdown, and that's playing against Detroit's offense, who went off on Indianapolis last week.
Yep.
A team with Matthew Stafford, Golden Tate, great weapons in the passing game, and we've given up 1 touchdown in 2 games.
Yeah, that's really says a lot about the defense because you think we are poor in that area because we weren't getting pass rush. The defense did play a lot better this game getting to Stafford. I think we got 4 sacks. 2 by Arakpo. Kevin Dodd getting the first sack of his career.
Yeah, finally kept his hands out of his dude's face.
Yeah, you got a couple of those calls, which one of them I remember being questionable too because it didn't look like his hands were actually in his face. Anyway, and then who was it? Klug.
Carl Klug.
Getting on the board with the sack.
Carl Klug.
So good on the defense for getting to the quarterback a lot more effectively this game.
Yeah.
But still, man, that secondary, there's something about the secondary in our pass defense. Again, we were there in the right spots. I just don't think, we're not getting our head around to look for the ball. There's just something there, some way that our defensive backs have been, how they're playing receivers. I don't know what it is, what the technique is, but man, they're in position to make a play, but it just doesn't happen for us.
I mean, Parrish Cox had a bad game. There's no way else to put it. He looked bad up until the final offensive play of the game for Detroit, where he picked the ball off. He picked Stafford off, but
he's not going to get remembered for that. He's going to get remembered for getting trucked by Matthew Stafford.
He did, yes, but he got Matthew Stafford back with the interception at the end. Yes, yes, he did get truck sticked by Stafford.
Absolutely.
Come on, bro. But he had a bad game time and time again. He was getting burned.
You got penalties.
He got picked on. Penalties, holding penalties, pass interference penalties. It's like Marvin Jones almost went for a career day, 8 receptions, 118 yards. Marvin
that might
Jones,
be a career day for him. Yeah.
I think it was his second game ever going over 100 yards. But oh man,
and it also helped that I think they had like 3 or 4 drop passes. I mean, I remember them
in
dropping
the game.
some
They had
passes.
I believe it was at least 7 overall.
7
Holy total cow. Drop passes. So Detroit,
they had chances to win.
They did have chances. I was surprised going late into the fourth quarter. Honestly, I thought Detroit should have been blowing us out. They should have had a much larger lead than they did, attributed to their own poor play, drop passes, mistakes, and penalties. But that's the NFL for you, man.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff like this happens, and you got to find ways to win games. And honestly, this was one of our keys to the season, is when we get in these tough fourth quarter games, we finish them out, which we did.
We finished a game. We came back in the fourth quarter, didn't let up. Man, it feels good to be able to do that. Get a win in the win column.
But regardless, secondary's got to play better. I mean, I don't know what happens. We finally got the pass rush. Our run defense still looked good. I know Detroit's run game is nothing to write home about. I know Amir Abdullah went out early with an injury.
They had a few injury issues too, which unfortunate for them. But man, our I guess I'm going to go back to our offensive line for 2 seconds. Their linebackers were riddled with injuries, and Ansah went out early too with an injury, and we were still having trouble against that front 7 from Detroit.
I mean, by the end of the game, they only had 2 linebackers, I believe, that were healthy for them. They had to start a defensive lineman at linebacker. Yeah, it was great for us when Ansah went down earlier.
Right.
Levy was out for the game, which we didn't know originally at the beginning of the week.
And then his backup went down.
And then another linebacker.
I think somebody else did too.
Yeah. So they ended the game with only 2 linebackers healthy. So that really did help us out at the end. They're bad luck. There was some bad juju with the Lions because they must have offended the football gods this week.
The Lions, it's a typical Lions game. I'm sure they're going to say they lost in typical Lions fashion or whatever, but it would have been a loss in typical Titans fashion if we had given up a last drive. I mean, that could have gone either way.
I
would have felt extremely robbed if Matthew Stafford ended up leading them to a game-winning field goal after Jarrell Casey knocked the ball out of his hands, and Matthew Stafford was still on his feet, and they blew the whistle dead. Yes. You need to swallow that whistle, for goodness sakes.
Okay, yeah, we'll get to that real quick. But overall, defensive thoughts, how do you think we played?
It's kind of amazing to me how we've only given up as many points as we've had on defense. Yeah, so far, it's been like a bend severely, but don't break kind of thing with our defense. It felt good to get to the quarterback, to get to Matthew Stafford, sack him a few times. That helps out the secondary tremendously. There's still room for improvement, though. It's going to be tough sledding next week against Oakland with Derek Carr and the big, nice crop of receivers that they have. But overall, the defense made plays at the end of the game when we had to. Did a great job of holding them to field goals on a few drives. May or may not have been helped by the refs on a few of those, but I think it was a good, decent performance by the D overall.
Yeah, I'm impressed with our defense through 2 games. I mean, if you had told me we're only going to give up 15 points to Detroit, and I actually only predicted that Detroit would score 14 points.
He did.
And people gave me crap for it, saying that Detroit's offense is way better than that. They only put up 15 points.
What did you say, 19 to 14?
I said we would win 19 to 14. It was 16 to 15. That's close. Prediction. You got to give me that.
Nice.
But if you had told me, Stafford, we kind of raked our secondary through the coals, but he was just a little over 50% completion percentage. Threw an interception, which we forced him to a late interception to win the game.
Had a handful of drop passes.
Of drop passes. Our defense is getting it done. Our offense through the first 3 quarters of the game, we should have been down by 20 plus points. Honestly, if you're just looking at how bad our offense was playing, but our defense It's 15 points. That was
They
it.
kept us in the game.
If
They
you can
gave
hold-
our
yeah.
offense a chance to win in the fourth quarter.
And I know some of that was self-inflicted by Detroit, but I'm going to give some credit to our D too. Our pass rush was there today. We stopped the running backs.
Big props to them too, because also we were missing Derek Morgan, our starting outside linebacker, who was huge for our pass rushing.
We will have to monitor. I know Avery Williamson went
Yeah.
down with an injury kind of later in the game. See where he's at for next week.
Marcus
But,
did too for some reason. I don't know. I'm sure he'll be fine. But Matt Castle went in to take that final knee, and he looked like he was hobbling.
I kind of feel it was more cramps with Marcus. I know they were massaging his calves earlier, and he was
Yeah.
drinking some Gatorade on the sideline. So it could have just been like a cramping thing. I don't think it's anything serious, but you never know. We Titans deal with quarterbacks who just step back to take a handoff and they're out for the year. Jake Locker.
Come on, Jake.
Okay, anyway, so that's offense and defense.
You want to do special teams?
Special teams,
There's not much
we
to
can do it
talk
real
about.
quick. I think nothing big in the special teams play on our end.
Mark Marion fumbled a ball out of bounds, though. That
He
could have
did.
been disastrous.
Could have been huge, but that's
Got
all
lucky
right.
there. I think the biggest thing was penalties, though. Like
let's
the
get to the
penalties killed
officiating.
our field position. But other than that, our coverage team was fine. Nothing huge either way on the special teams play.
Yeah. Let's talk about the officiating because this was a huge part of this game, especially. I mean, almost an NFL record in flags thrown. Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no flow to the game. Both teams were affected both ways. Lost tons of yards.
Yeah.
And like you said, most of them are justified. There's a few big ones that I don't see how they let these slide.
I don't either. I mean, I do think it's probably a combination between it was just sloppy play on both sides of the ball, legitimate, just sloppy penalties that should have been called and were, and also the refs being just whistle happy and calling anything and everything they possibly could have seen, which just attributed even more to the influx of penalties. If we can, do you have like the stats brought up of yards from penalties? Oh, I got it here. Whoa, okay, so Detroit had 17 penalties for 138 yards.
That's insane.
That is way too many yards for penalties if you want to win a game. Titans still had 12 for 83, so it didn't affect us near as much yardage-wise, it doesn't look like, but man, that's 12 plays that are hurting you negatively on the Titans side. So yeah, the yardage was costly as far as penalties go.
But let's get down to some big plays. Obviously, the Eric Ebron for Detroit. Eric Ebron called for pass interference in the end zone.
That was
when they had
phantom
first
call.
and goal. Phantom call. I mean, yeah, there was hand checking, but there's hand checking every single play.
There
But
is.
no push off on his end. I'm sorry, Detroit, but you guys lost that one. But it was played back. I think there was 2 fumble calls. Detroit fumbled the ball twice that I think should have at least been reviewed or something.
I guess they whistled it for forward progress, but it happened so fast, I feel
I
like.
know Theo Riddick fumbled one earlier where they said that forward progress was stopped, which that was earlier in the game, so it wasn't as big of a deal. As big of a deal. The big one though, last drive after we took the lead, Stafford gets sacked by Casey, clearly fumbles it while he's still up.
I think somebody else had him, and then Casey knocked the ball out because I think he was like in the
I thought
process
Casey
of going
had
to the
him,
ground.
was sitting him down, and then someone came and hit the ball out.
I thought Casey
It could
was
be-
the one
it
hitting
could
it
be
out.
the other way.
Yeah, but either way, he was getting sacked, and then a Titan knocked the ball out, swatted it out with his hands, and he was clearly still up. And Casey recovered it, or it was that other Titan. Whichever way. I thought that was a clear strip sack fumble. Should have been the Titans' ball, but they gave the ball back.
They
to Detroit.
blew the play dead before
Yeah.
Stafford was even down. He's in the process of getting pulled down, and they blow the play dead. He ends up fumbling still a good foot off the ground before his knees hit. And then the next play they convert that long 3rd and 19
on
to
the
Eric
one-handed
Ebron.
catch by Ebron. Amazing catch, man.
But if we had ended up losing that game, thank God Parrish Cox got that interception. But man, I would be so much more mad at the refs right now. That's unacceptable. And I think just watching this game as compared to watching other NFL games, and I know you can always get mad at the refs, but just the inconsistency.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the refs today, the whole officiating crew was so whistle happy.
Man, they were. And I'm trying to think of any no calls that seemed like they should have been penalties and they weren't called.
Well, I know
I'm sure there were a
Stafford
few
was
things.
really mad about that one where Jarrell Casey may have hit him low, but Jarrell Casey
Oh,
was
yeah.
tripped and kind of fell into him. But that gets
Yeah,
called in a
that's-
lot of
that's
games,
true.
honestly.
It does. Yeah.
And especially with the way the game was how this game was going, you would expect that to get called.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Seemed like a pretty easy call to make for roughing the passer. Because, like you said, I've seen that call made many times.
Even if you fall low into the quarterback, they're throwing that tripped or pushed. If you hit the quarterback low,
and it was a good full second after he'd released the ball too.
So I can understand why Stafford was mad. Another bad call early in the game. Tajay Sharp was called for a chop block or a cut block. When the guy just ran straight into him.
He ran into Sharp, and then Sharp...
And it was a running play from the beginning. Like, he's blocking. Man, Sharp hit him up. Hit him in the head, hit him just square in the chest with his arms.
With his shoulder, or his arm, yeah. And the defender wasn't engaged with another blocker, which I thought was what a chop block was. When you go low, below the belt, whenever the blocker's already engaged with another player. And the defender ran right at Sharp, and Sharp just kind of... Okay, he's going to run this way. I'm going to take him out, shoulder to shoulder, knocked him down, and it was called a chop block. And we were driving. We were inside the 20.
That completely killed that drive right there because that was a 15-yard penalty.
Yeah, and I think we had run Derrick Henry. I think it was who gained like 10 yards. We were in good position to score. Yeah, it killed that drive. Just another poor call that I think by the refs.
But I was extremely disappointed in the officiating crew just in general, just with the inconsistency from game to game. If we had had a different crew for this game, I think it would have been a completely different game.
Yeah.
And I do think a lot of the penalties were justified. The big ones we mentioned were kind of weird, the phantom calls or the no calls. But I just think they need to clean up the inconsistencies from game to game, from crew to crew. Like, if one crew is going to be extremely picky, they all need to be extremely picky. Like, they need to call it the same ways. Right. That's hard for a team to plan when next week, we're going to do the same exact things and get two, no calls or something.
Yeah. At least if there is a plus with a penalized game like this, it seemed like they were making terrible, inconsistent calls on both sides. Yeah. At least it wasn't completely one-sided with inconsistency. No. But both teams had horrible calls and no calls go and not go.
And I feel like Detroit's going to end up... Detroit fans are going to be more angry than we are at that because they ended up with 5 more penalties with way more yards, especially stuff like the Eric Ebron touchdown callback. But that fumble late... I'm telling you, if we had lost, there would be a mob in the streets right now.
I would be leading
heading for Roger Goodell's house to bring back the replacement refs, man.
Yeah, seriously.
I'm just kidding. Those guys suck.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
Crazy game though. Crazy game. Low scoring.
I did not think there was any. Man, I should have more faith in my team because in the fourth quarter, I did not have much hope. I just didn't think we could get it going on offense, but that fourth quarter, we just really turned it up.
We really
able
did.
to make some long drives.
I'm giving the props to our Mariota and the offense, and even Malarkey. Through 3 quarters, they looked bad. So bad. Like, stuff we had seen for the previous 2 seasons when we were the worst team in the NFL. But that fourth quarter, which is what we're going on now, man, they looked sharp. Marcus looked sharp, made big plays. Tajay looked sharp. Delaney Walker looked sharp. All their last names are sharp now. Because, they look good, and we got the job done in Detroit on the road.
And you know what I kind of like, too, from the offense is I didn't see... I guess I like it because it seemed to work and we won. We didn't see as much exoticness. We didn't get any misdirection or fancy plays. No fake sneaks and then laterals to Henry near the sideline. It seemed to be a little more smash mouth. Just line up and play football. Again, we were talking about this during the game. There's some 3rd and 1s, and Mariota lines up in the shotgun. And there's a few times it worked out for us, but it's like, we should be able to get a yard and just, run the ball up the middle. We have probably the biggest back in football. And Derrick Henry was finding room and made a few good runs too. So, I don't know. We got the win. I'm not complaining, but I liked our offensive approach this game, too, as opposed to last week. It really started to come together in the fourth quarter, though.
I do, too. And honestly, I think one of my biggest cheers for the team was when we were down 15-3 in the fourth quarter. We didn't get away from the game like we did against Minnesota. We kept on running the ball. And, there was some 3rd and 1s where we did get back in the shotgun, but I feel like he converted a few of those. But early, I remember there being a few 3rd and 1s where we did pound the ball up with Derrick Henry and get that short yards, which we did not do against Minnesota. So I definitely like that.
Yep.
Just side note, I liked how Derrick Henry was running today. Yeah. He was running strong. He was powering through people, falling forward, gaining positive yards. Even if he looked like, there's a few times he looked like he was going to be tackled in the backfield, ended up making a positive yards out of it. So, welcome to the NFL, Derrick Henry. I know you struggled week 1, but I think week 2, man, he's really stepped it up. 9 carries, 40 yards, 4.4 average. Solid.
Very good. Yeah, good showing by him for show.
Solid. Amazingly, we squeaked away with a win. Crazy game. Once again, officiating's the story of the game for sure, but also can't leave out Marcus Clutch Marcus Mariota. Mahalo at ya.
Mahalo at ya, boy, Marcus.
Any final thoughts you want to discuss?
Yeah, the win is huge, I think, for us in our confidence and going into next week against Oakland. I think that's going to help the whole home game advantage aspect. I think our fans are going to be pumped up after this really tight win. Everyone's going to be fired up. We got to come ready to play against Oakland. Got to get after Derek Carr. That's going to be a tough game. But man, it just feels good to enjoy a victory right now. We are 1-1. I mean, we've been 1-1 for the past 3 years because we always won our first games. But here's the flip side. We won the second game of the year now. That's just as good.
And now in this position, I would rather win the second game than the first game. So I'm cool with it. You know, NFL is about getting the win no matter, how it happens, which is what we did today, regardless of penalties, bad play through 3 quarters, everything that went on, everything else that went on. I don't have the words for it. We found a way to get the job done in the 4th quarter.
Yep.
I don't think this team could have done that in the last 3 years. So something's different, but
it feels different. I think you had a tweet that went out earlier. It said it feels like a different team, but we're getting the same results. I mean, that was midway through the game.
That was midway through quarter 3. I was like, this looks and feels like a different team, but we're still producing the same we're still producing the same results. That 4th quarter, we looked like a new team. We looked like a team that wanted to win, a team that could come back against the Detroit offense, down 15-3, 2 possessions, and get the job done on the road.
Yep, I love it.
I do too.
Man,
amazing
I'm
win.
Excited. Life is good this week.
Life is good. Let's celebrate it. Also, just side note, Titans stash is now 1-0, so I'm not gonna be able to shave this stash for the rest.
If you're only listening to us on the podcast, Caleb has a nice mustache happening.
Yes,
that's the good luck charm now officially.
Titan stash. Hashtag us at Titan stash. Hashtag Titan stash. Great win. Another tough challenge next week against another high-flying, high-octane passing offense with Derek Carr, Amari Cooper, Michael Crabtree. But it's back at home in Nissan Stadium, so we'll be watching the game from the stadium, hopefully.
Yep, hopefully. We'll be there.
We'll be there.
Screaming our lungs out until they burst.
Like we said, this is a very reactionary recap video. We'll be doing like another kind of breakdown and grades on the full game later. Maybe our thoughts will be more together. But if you have any notes for us or stuff we left out, leave it in the comments below. We're just getting the stuff right off our chest right after the game.
Feels good.
So, we're still hyped up. My heart's still racing from that win.
I'm about to go run 1.5 miles.
You're about to go to work.
All right.
Lame.
You're right.
Sorry for bringing that up. But,
you just killed my hype, but that's all right. Titans won.
Regardless, Titans get the job done on the road in Detroit, 16-15. Tighten up, boys.
Tighten up.
Super Bowl bound. Here we come.
Okay. Yeah. No, you're right. I'm on board. We're totally going to the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl bound.
Of course. Always, every year. So, look forward to some more videos from us this week. We'll be trying to do some more recaps and NFL game predictions and I don't know, whatever else we do. We'll play Madden again, I'm sure.
Yeah, I want to play some Madden.
Yeah.
So, just check us out. Don't forget to subscribe. Also, hit us up on that Tweeter.
Tweet.
And, if you want to keep up with our reactions during the game, you can always follow us on Snapchat because it gets crazy on that during game day, apparently.
We did come out with a Snapchat if you want to see the Snapchat of us during the game. A lot of it was Amy, though, but
it was.
She did a good job.
She's part of the Titans, too.
Yeah.
Big win for the Titans. Still calling it. I'm good at calling Detroit games. I called the game last week on the last-second touchdown. Called us winning this week 19-14. It was 16-15, but that's close enough, man. I'm giving it to myself.
Yeah, that was impressive.
Anyways, Titans 2.